Welcome to Lesson 1 of the FastAPI Beginners Guide. Here's the pitch in one line. The type hints you already write for MyPy and your IDE. FastAPI turns them into a working server. It validates incoming JSON, generates OpenAPI docs at /docs, and returns 422s with field-level errors automatically. The real superpower isn't raw speed. It's that you write less code than vanilla Flask and get more features for free. So here's the roadmap for the next 10 minutes. 4 mental models. That's it. First, why reach for a framework at all instead of raw HTTP.server? Second, why FastAPI specifically over Flask, Django, or AIOHTTP? Third, the 3 superpowers that define its identity: pydantic, async, and auto-generated OpenAPI. And fourth, just as important when not to use FastAPI, because picking the right tool is half the senior reflex. Let's make that concrete with a side-by-side. Same endpoint, post/items with validation. Flask needs 18 lines. Import Marshmallow, define a schema, wrap the handler in try except, manually return 422 on failure. FastAPI does it in 8, using nothing but a pydantic model and a type hint. Same JSON in, same JSON out, same 422 on bad input, except FastAPI also hands you interactive docs at /docs for free. That's the pitch in one screen. So where does that leverage come from? 3 features, and each one would be a separate library in Flask. 1. Type hints double as validation. Pydantic reads your model, validates the JSON, returns 422 with field-level errors, and the function signature becomes the contract. 2. Async by default, non-blocking I/O on UVicorn, 5 to 10 times more concurrent requests on the same hardware. 3. OpenAPI built-in, /docs/redoc, Postman exports, client SDKs in TypeScript, Go, or Java. Production tooling you'd otherwise bolt on yourself. Let's make claim number 1 concrete. You define an item model with a name string and a price float. That's it, no validators, no try except. Send a curl with price set to not a number, and FastAPI hands back a 422 with a structured detail array. The LOC points straight to body.price. The message explains the failure, and the type tells you it was a float parsing error. Machine readable, field level, 0 handler code. Try writing that in Flask without reaching for a library. Now, before you start reaching for FastAPI on every project, here's the senior reflex. Pick the smallest tool that fits. Building a CLI, use Click or Typer. You're parsing argv, not handling HTTP. A nightly batch job? Plain Python, no server required. Static marketing site? Hugo or Astro will outperform anything dynamic. And if you actually need an admin panel, sessions, and templates out of the box, that's Django's territory. FastAPI shines for REST APIs, Backend for front-end, microservices, and ML model serving. That's the lane. So once you're in that lane, here's the honest lineup. Flask, from 2010, is great for tiny apps, but gives you no validation, no async, no docs. Django is the heavyweight monolith pick, and DRF is what you maintain in legacy Django shops. AIOHTTP is async, but bare metal, 0 ergonomics. FastAPI from 2018 is the only one that bundles type hints, async, and auto-generated docs in one package. For new REST APIs in 2026, it's the default. So how do you actually decide in the moment? 6 reflexes. If you're already writing type hints, FastAPI gives you validation for free. If front-end or mobile teams need Swagger or an SDK, FastAPI ships it. ML serving with long inference times? Async wins. But admin panel with user CRUD and permissions? Don't fight Django. A single webhook endpoint? Flask. And stop there. The senior move is matching the tool to the shape of the problem, not defaulting to whatever's trending. Here's the whole decision tree on one screen. 12 patterns to bookmark. Notice FastAPI shows up 5 times, but it's deliberately not the answer for 7 of them. A tiny webhook stays on Flask. A full-stack monolith or anything needing an admin UI goes to Django. CLI tools belong to Click or Typer. Static sites to Hugo or Astro, and a one-off script is just plain Python. Match the shape, don't force the framework. Now flip it around. Here are 5 ways people pick FastAPI for the wrong reasons. Don't reach for it on a 50-line cron job, and don't pick it just because benchmarks say it beats Flask. Flask already handles 10,000 requests a second on a laptop. Going async without actually awaiting anything? That's just wasted complexity. Trying to rebuild Django on top? Use Django. And please, don't handwrite API contracts when /docs is already generating them for free. Time to put hands on keys. 3 exercises. First, pip install FastAPI standard, write a 5-line main.py, and open /docs. That's the moment it clicks. Second, add a pydantic item model, post to it, and watch FastAPI reject bad input with a 422 before your code ever runs. Third, and this is the senior move, grab a script you wrote last month and honestly ask if it even belongs in FastAPI. Most of the time, plain Python is the right answer. And that's lesson 1. You know why FastAPI exists, where it wins, and just as importantly, where it doesn't belong. Next up, we go from theory to a running endpoint. Your first @app.get, the Uvicorn dev loop, and a tour of the /docs explorer that ships for free. See you in lesson 2.